think it's one of the younger countries in general, actually. National pride without the nationalistic tendencies. At the end of the war, once the Liberation Front and the partisans win, there is a very dark chapter in Slovenian history. 23rd of December 1990, we have our referendum where the whole of Slovenia is asked, would you like to be independent? Like, would we like to be an independent nation? And a bit more than 88% of the people say yes.
Know Your Neighbors, a podcast by Maldo and Giulio.
Hello, hello! Welcome to Know Your Neighbors, episode
14. So thank you, Lan, for making us pass the halfway mark, and thank you for being here.
Fantastic, it really feels nice, you know. Like, thank you so much for having me, guys.
It's a pleasure,
yeah.
it's a pleasure. So, which country are you gonna
Represent,
indeed?
I'm a born and raised Slovenian, so I will proudly represent Slovenia and hopefully enlighten some of the history of Slovenia for the broader audience, I guess.
Okay, yes, we'll learn about this small beautiful country that not everyone knows about. Disclaimer, it is not Slovakia, so let's we did Slovakia already, check it out. First episode actually.
Actually, the first thing we could do is on the map, more or less.
True, well, okay, maybe we say the bordering countries just for...
Yes.
Sure. So in the west you have Italy, in the north you have Austria, in the east you have Hungary, and in the south you have Croatia.
Croatia, yeah.
So really, for a small country bordering many others, you know.
And the seaside, although Croatia took most of yours.
Don't get me
That's another
started, man.
We'll get there.
We'll get there eventually.
Do we start with a drink maybe, or?
Tin, a very local one. This was a really local one.
Doesn't get more
Tell
local
us,
than this.
who
So-
made this?
This is my grandfather's homemade schnapps. You could even
Which
call
is-
it rakia to a degree.
What's that? I mean,
Don't smell it too much.
I did already,
Let's
and
go
my
for it,
God,
let's go for
are
it.
we sure? We're
Na
sure.
zdravie.
I think
Zdravie.
it's
All right. Well, now that we are warmed up in all senses.
in all senses, indeed. Where do we start?
Yes, tell us a bit about Slovenia.
So you guys wanted to start around,
Modern history, so a
Yes.
bit earlier than World War One.
but I think it is very important that for a very young nation like Slovenia it is important to mention we have a very long history of the Slovenian language and of the Slovenian culture in general. So one of the
Spoiler,
yes.
it's as recent as.
No, so Slovenia 1991, and it's I think it's one of the younger countries in general, actually. But yes, it's so. If you really want to go back to prehistoric times, of course, nothing to do with Slovenia. But in Slovenia, the oldest music instrument ever was found, which was in the cave of Divya Baba, and it's a flute made out of bear bone, and it dates back to 60,000 BC. So that's
Oh wow.
really, you can see that the culture was already on the Slovenian ground, although we might not call it Slovenia. But then one of the oldest traditions stemming from the land that is now Slovenia was the ritual of the Karantanian ducal stone. So there was a country called Karantania back in these regions, and the tradition was basically that when the new duke got enthroned, he would have to go to this place where he would sit on the ducal stone, and he would be interviewed by a member of the peasantry, so of the free people. And he was interviewed in the Slovenian language. So it's one of the oldest democratic traditions in the world.
Interesting.
Because this peasant represented the free people, and he would ask him questions on the morality and the integrity of the duke. And then at the end of the ritual, he would get to slap the duke on the face.
My God. That's
It
like
kind
a
of-
medieval movie.
Yes, but
style.
it represents this strong, idea of, hey, we are the people and we are in power.
Actually has power.
And
Yeah.
it's one of the oldest democratic traditions, apparently. It was even adopted later in the 14th century by the Habsburg monarchy, and it was according to some sources, an inspiration when Thomas Jefferson was writing the US Constitution, because it's really that deeply rooted in sort of semi-democratic processes, let's say.
Yeah.
Slovenian
I
influence
see it.
all over the place.
Look,
According to some sources, let's stress that.
Oh, but it's super
Yes,
interesting.
yes.
still,
super
you
interesting.
know.
Super.
And then the Slovenian language is first written down in around the year 1000 in Brzezinski Spomeniki. It's 3 documents basically written in Slovene, and it's the first instance where a Slavic language is written down in Latin alphabet, basically. I think, most definitely that Slovenian language was not the same as the Slovenian language is right now.
For sure.
But you can already see the history behind that, you know, like way earlier. And yes, then after that, Slovenia is a part of the Habsburg monarchy, most of the regions, then later on the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So most of the regions are under Austria. My region, the Prekmurje region, is part of Hungary. There's a river bordering us away. And the Slovenians are never truly unified in this sense. You know, we're always having invaders, different rulers that kind of push down our autonomy, our culture. Does not have very strong culture in its sense until the 16th century, when Primož Trubar writes the first Slovenian book, and it's heavily influenced by the Protestant movement of having the mass being done in its own in the language of the people, right? So you don't have Latin mass anymore, you have the mass in the language that people can actually understand. And Primož Trubar is one of the basically it has written the first Slovenian book, but it's still, you wouldn't be able to really talk about Slovenia as a nation back then. And then we move on to the 19th century, and that's where really the root of the Slovenian awakening happens, along the Spring of Nations.
The beginning.
Yes.
Okay.
This is where really you can start to see Slovenians fighting or vocalizing their demand for their own culture, for their own nation even, you could say. And it's from 1848, when the Spring of Nations happens. That's also kind of when the Slovenian national awakening happens. And in those years leading up, so on the turn of the 20th century and leading up to World War I, this becomes very vocal. This becomes kind of the main idea of the people living in these areas is, we have our own we have our own identity, you know, we would like to express it. Theaters in Slovenian language start popping up, a lot of cultural organizations, and this is where also most of the most famous writers of Slovenian descendants come into play, which is Ivan Cankar, and
It's interesting to see because I feel that nowadays with technologies and so on, social media, I don't have the feeling that culture and writers, etc., have such a role because of nowadays world. But actually, it's crazy because in many countries, not only Slovenia, but actually also Bulgaria, Czechia, that we listened to we recorded recently. You can check it out if you have not.
Sure, definitely should.
No, but really the role of writer, poetry, even movies and so on, and all the culture that ended up and resulted in actually even independence, and
of course it's
had a huge impact.
I guess it was just a different type of media. It's because even the publishing houses started producing Slovenian material. You know, it was there was a lot of it, and then during World War I, this unfortunately fades into the background because once again you have invading forces coming in, and the fight for national identity, I wouldn't say fade. I guess to a certain degree it moves into the background because the war effort is there. But in another way, it kind of spurs this even more, where Slovenians now have to fight for different nations that they don't truly believe in, but they need to. They are drawn into the army. They need to defend for
you were
whoever
still
country.
in the Austro-Hungary Empire.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
when you joined the war, you were part of this empire, and then you were fighting against
Italians. Yes.
you.
And
I didn't fight in anything, but
yes,
Italy,
enlisted almost by force, really. And the Italian front, one of the bloodiest fronts of the First World War, the Soška Fronta, 12 battles, over 1 million people lost their lives, and it was a turning point of the war in the end,
But I guess, as you said, interesting indeed to think of the fact that you are fighting for overall like a wider nation, which is the wider empire, which actually people did not feel they belonged to because they could not speak their own language, or at least they were prevented from speaking their own language and so on. So it is hard to go and die on the front line, I guess, if you're not believing in what you're defending. But
I think this will, and we will talk about this later. But this juxtaposition to the World War II, where Slovenians are kind of defending their own place, is it tells a lot about human nature, I guess, when you're defending your own land and something that you believe in or no.
Definitely, I think it's a basic in a way. My brothers wouldn't be in the military if it was not because, in a way, it's because of the national sentiment as well. You need to have a bit of that.
For sure, it's this Slovenian story. I think it's later on, but the overarching theme is national pride without the nationalistic tendencies. Slovenians are kind of trying to walk this line where, yes, national freedom and personal liberation, but not for the price of extremism. But of course, the writers and the poets wrote in more nationalistic terms, and I think this era is really the defining moment where Slovenians realize, okay, we have a chance, now to become a nation, and we need to take this. We cannot be a passive observer, and it's exactly this what Ivan Cankar wrote in one of the greatest Slovenian writers. He wrote that the nation will write their own judgment, and there's this great passage that says he was a serf, so a servant. He is a servant, and he will remain a servant. And it's a strong message that he implies. It's not only the subjugation by another nation that is keeping you down, but the own will of the people that need to, if you want something, you need to take it. You need to fight for it.
Rise up.
Exactly. And I think this is still very strong, and this guy gets quoted still amongst the Slovenian people.
And that translates into practical terms for Slovenia after World War One. Indeed, it gains for the first time some sort of independence, although it doesn't go exactly the right way.
The first time in Slovenian history that all of Slovenian regions are unified under the same flag. Or not under the same flag, but
your region joins.
Exactly.
Finally.
Yes, exactly. We Prekmurje joins because Austro-Hungary falls apart. Prekmurje declares independence, and we like to joke that we were independent. We declared independence, then we drank for 3 days, and then we realized after the hangover was done that, hey guys, maybe
this type of drink was the one they drank.
Probably.
I would also declare independence after a few of those.
But no, I think we were independent for a couple of weeks. We still like to joke about it, but it wasn't really a push for the regional independence. It was intermittent move, let's say, because we knew that a nation is forming in terms of the kingdom of Serbs and Croats in Yugoslavia. And then a year later, so in 1919, I think the Serb forces come into Prekmurje and officially declare it as part of the kingdom of the Serbs and Croats and Slovenes. And this day is still celebrated in Slovenia as a national holiday. It's I think it's the 17th of August, actually.
So there's like proper unification of the whole...
Yes. Yes, for the first time in a very, very long time. So the first time that Slovenia has a national identity.
Just
And
back then.
exactly, and all of
Even
it is
if
unified.
it was in unity with the Serbs and the Croats,
Yes,
still it's considered as a key date.
it very much. I mean, technically, if you look at it, the kingdom of Serbs and Croats and Yugoslavians and Slovenians came into existence in 1918,
Yeah.
and this is just an addition to it all. But you could say that this is definitely the first time that all of Slovenia is united,
Yeah.
or the Slovenian nation is united.
But how does the experience indeed of sharing, let's say, the kingdom with the Croats and Serbs go? Spoiler, we know, but
Spoiler, well, let's continue with the history.
So Slovenians finally have, you know, all of this unity, and once again it turns out that they need to fight for their own liberties. They face heavy pressure, centralist pressure from the elites in Belgrade.
Yeah.
Their culture is to a certain degree pushed down in favor of the broader Yugoslavian culture. And then things get worse in 1929 when the kingdom is officially named Yugoslavia and it becomes a royal dictatorship. And then this push for Yugoslavian ethnicity becomes even stronger. So as you can see, Slovenians kind of fighting these people that want to repress their own identity throughout history and
you had
all the time.
been fighting since the Austro-Hungary Empire, or even before. Then you have the kingdom that seems to respect, but not really, and then they come with the...
This one is different because we go in there willingly.
Yeah.
We definitely, and this must be said, no matter how much we complain, we feel this is our choice,
the kingdom.
Exactly. This is our choice to join this kingdom, and these are our brothers.
Okay.
In a broader pan-Slavic sense, these are the people we identify. The Slavic roots, the language is quite similar, you know. So we really go with this. And yeah, I don't think there's really much to be said during that time. The Slovenian, you know, it's this great paradox that the more you try to suppress a certain nation, the more its culture fights back. You need to have people that fight back, right? And it's this great tenacity that Slovenians show that we never gave up on our national identity. You know, you have poets again, you have writers, you know, claiming that we need this. The Slovenians
now we have
need this
tweets and
language.
Instagrams and
yes, but in the same way, you know.
It's just funny to think what's the
difference. The
Yeah,
medium
but it's
changes, but the
really-
message stays there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, then I guess the kingdom survives until World War II, I presume, and then World War II
yes.
happens.
Yes.
And what does that mean for Slovenia?
So Slovenia gets invaded in 1941. Yes.
Slovenia and the whole kingdom.
Yes. So it's a
So it's like
declaration of war on
considered-
Yugoslavia.
on
Yeah,
Yugoslavia, okay.
definitely. It is one nation at that time. You know? 1941. The Italians come from the west, the Germans come from the north, and the Hungarians come from the east. They divide Slovenia up, and their really heavy ethnocide happens. You know, Germanization, Italization, Hungarization.
Oh my god.
It's really represses the Slovenian language. Its books are banned or burned. You know, its language is forbidden. Culture just really dies out. In Prekmurje particularly, Prekmurje has its own regional dialect that has been there for a long time, and it was actually very strong, even independent of the Slovenian linguistic movement. And there's a large Jew population in Prekmurje that gets completely wiped out during this time. But the World War comes around, and quite fast, so I think in 1942, the Liberation Front is established, so Osvobodilna Fronta of Slovenia, led largely by the Communist Party. they quickly gain control of the Liberation Front. And then there is the independent partisan movement, heavily aligned with the Tito partisan movement, but not really. And over the years that the war is fought, the partisans actually establish a great resistance through guerrilla tactics, because they are heavily supported by the grassroots women movement and the national identity basically being so strong, reaping the benefits of being marginalized all the time, that now when you finally have a chance to fight for your own land, everyone supports this movement. Everyone, of course, not true.
Now there's a clear occupier, so you know who you're fighting against.
Exactly. And you know what you're fighting for.
Yeah.
And the people, especially in the hills of Pohorje and everywhere, you really have these people living in the forests for years, but being supplied through the villages, through this grassroots movement that was there. And it turns out in the end they are successful, but a big asterisk on it all is that you also had this counter-resistance movement of the Home Guard, so the Slovenian Domobranci, which is the part of the population that sided with the Nazis. They swore allegiance to Hitler in Plečnikov Stadium, so the Plečnik Stadium. Plečnik was one of the greatest architects of Slovenia, basically designed Ljubljana on his own. Most of the nice things you see in Ljubljana are due to his credit.
Also the three
bridges, exactly. Yeah, the three bridges, the National Library, and
are they beautiful? I ask you because
he's
biased.
Oh, very cute. Go to Ljubljana, very cute.
No, very nice. It's definitely worth seeing. But and then there's this division among the Slovenian people, right? You have the people supporting the occupiers and the people on the side of resistance. And it's at the end of the war, once the Liberation Front and the partisans win, there is a very dark chapter in Slovenian history where there is post-war reprisals, meaning tens of thousands of people get killed without a trial. Mass executions, buried in unmarked graves. It's
of whom?
Of the Domobranci, of the people that sided with the Nazis.
With the Nazis.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And I think here it's really worth mentioning that, or should be mentioned, that neither side was right in this. I truly and honestly believe that an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. How the saying goes.
Sure.
It doesn't matter what one side did or what the other did. As long as you continue this cycle of violence, it gets us nowhere. Yeah. And it's actually still debated heavily right now. So it's I think a couple of months ago, a resolution in the EU was passed acknowledging these post-war killings. And it's again bringing tension and division amongst the Slovenian people.
Yeah. Was the government, was the people?
It was the Communist Party. It was the Communist Party taking revenge on the people that did not support them, basically, during that time. Because their claim is, okay, if you supported us from the start, if you sided with us, less people would have to die because the war wouldn't go on so long.
The thing is, what unfortunately usually happens in these type of situations, that people also use these occasions to take personal revenges. So
exactly.
Your whatever neighbor sided with the other side, and so you take the opportunity to
tell the communists that
So there is a lot of stuff going on in these very uncertain times after regime changes and wars. So
No, these fratricidal killings basically were horrible, and yet we still talk about them. So it's not a good mark in Slovenian history.
Yeah.
But okay, this happens, and then let's go on to how Slovenia moves forward from this. Yes.
On a more positive note.
On a more positive note.
The war ends.
Sorry.
The war ends. then you get you have this episode, but then you actually gain you move towards the independence that comes later on.
Yes.
What happened during those years?
So in 1945, the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia is established, Slovenia being one of its 6 members.
Can we name the others just for the sake of
Right.
no, it just
Sure.
the name was at least
So Croats,
great.
Serbs, Bosnians, Albanians, I think Kosovo.
Okay, well, still, let's say all the Balkan region is pretty.
No, but this is horrible. If that's not correct, I'm so sorry. If that's not correct, I should know this stuff, you know?
I think it's
happens.
it's widely correct from what I know.
Yeah. But yes, this is kind of
The kingdom plus a couple others.
the kingdom is a couple others. Exactly.
Perfect.
Countries created during the World War II, actually, or after World War II. And then then in 1948, Tito, so the leader of Yugoslavia, the unifying figure of Yugoslavia, breaks with Stalin and creates the non-aligned movement, which is yes, please.
Yeah.
Which is no, I still have. So yeah, the non-aligned movement enables Yugoslavia to kind of pursue its own path. It's not aligning with the East, with Stalin, it's not aligning with the West, with the Americans, and it is strong enough to be able to carve its own path. Now, there were other nations involved also, across North Africa and so on, but it enables us to have not planned this society, that the East had, but also not really liberal markets of the West. And it was great because I think here it really establishes this healthy socialism that kind of benefited most people. I think if you go and talk with the older generation, so my grandfather's generation, you will find that most of the people in Yugoslavia lived well, and most Slovenians were happy with the social safety nets, with being more or less equal, so it was quite nice. But on the other hand, we also had the possibility to have exchanges and trade routes with the West, because we didn't have to subordinate to Stalin. But tensions start to arise quite quickly.
Correct me from before we get into the tensions, just to clarify, I think from a societal point of view, still it was not pure freedom, like you could not, I guess, express anything against the regime, or there were no elections. I mean, just to clarify,
there was one party system. Yes, it was definitely the Communist Party who was in charge.
Yeah.
I don't know if de jure, but de facto for sure. And it was this kind of, yes, you can have Slovenian language, it was much more liberal than anything we have experienced so far. This time the tensions came from the economic side. Cultural side, Yugoslavia, and especially while Tito was still alive, Yugoslavia had a very strong identity, a unified identity. 1980s, when Tito dies, after Tito dies, this kind of starts breaking apart. And there are differentiating opinions on who Tito was and how good of a leader or a person he actually was. Or actually, I think differentiating opinions on how good of a person he was, but as a leader, I think he was a very strong leader who really knew how to play all sides, like in everything.
Because at the end of the day, he kept together very different nations. I mean, okay, you identify as one state, but like culturally, linguistically, it's still very different, and that's actually what's going to
exactly
come out.
Exactly. Different underlying religions, different language still.
He was a dictator.
So depends who you ask.
These are the questions.
That was my point.
Communist depends. Dictator depends. Well,
I
guess that's how we could keep it a bit in between.
I think it is a subjective definition. I think technically you could call him a dictator, and some people certainly do. Some people call him a charismatic leader.
Well, after that,
it's really a matter of opinion.
Yeah.
But a dictator has a very negative connotation to it. I think he was beloved by most people, you know, like a king is beloved by most of his subjects. You know, it wasn't a kingdom, but like a dictatorship sounds really, really bad. I think
I see.
he was liked by most because it was a national tragedy the day that he died. Like people cried for weeks apparently. And then this system of rotating presidency comes along, but it is heavily dominated by Serbia. And because Belgrade was the capital, you know, and they have their own agenda, you know, they want Yugoslavia to continue, and the Slovenians feel mostly for economic reasons that they are losing out on this deal of common taxation, the common coffers. Like you so neatly put it, they are the Germany of the EU, you know, putting more into the coffers than getting out. And there is just no leader that can really unify them again. And so Slovenians are developing mostly because of their nearness to the Western Europe. Much faster, heavy industrialization. Slovenia invests heavily in education, in innovation, in the industry. And you see this tendency to, okay, maybe after 500 years, you know, like half a millennia, maybe now is the time that we get our own country, you know, like
how about we do it on our own?
Maybe now is the time that we can actually succeed in this. So 23rd of December 1990, we have our referendum where the whole of Slovenia is asked, would you like to be independent? Like, would we like to be an independent nation? And a bit more than 88% of the people say yes, so in favor of this.
So pretty clear answer.
Very, very clear answer. Exactly.
This referendum was like the independent movement who
so
carried out, or it was like the Yugoslavia?
No, it was.
They didn't want it to happen, probably.
Exactly.
The Yugoslavs didn't really want this to happen. No, it was. So once the independence was declared, half a year later, a war broke out. So this very clearly states that no, they did not want this to happen. But we had sort of multi-party system at that point. Slovenia had its own elections. We also had the presidential elections. Milan Kučan becomes the first president of Slovenia. And then once the war is declared, the Yugoslav National Army invades Slovenia, and we have a 10-day war. And this 10-day war, it sounds...
Sorry.
No.
I shouldn't laugh because of a war, but 10 days war, it's funny. I mean, it's like your region's independence of 2 weeks.
We get off very scot-free. I fully understand how lucky we are in this sense, you know, that, okay, go, you know, this was more of a pro forma war.
Not a velvet revolution, but sort of.
Still, as we saw last time, a few people died, so
there was I think
no, but just
sorry,
no, just for people to know that it was not only on paper, but that was a short thing. Yes,
I think around 40 people died, something like that. Of course, loss of any one life is a tragedy, but considering how other wars go and how the war between Serbs and Croats, and later on like the descent of Yugoslavia, how those wars turned out, we got off completely free, like really no problem, because after the 10 days of fighting, the Brioni Agreement was made, and there it said that Slovenia will cease its independence movement for the next 3 months, and that the Yugoslav army will slowly retreat from Slovenia. So by the time the Yugoslav army retreats in October, Slovenia is basically independent. We get international recognition in 1992, I think. The European community immediately embraces this. You know, it's a victory for Slovenia, definitely. You know.
And maybe if you can comment quickly on why was it so easy for Slovenia, and well, we know it's going to be super hard then for the rest of Yugoslavia to to break apart. But why Slovenia got it in 10 days and with not much hassle?
I think it's a multifaceted answer and a bit too complex to go truly into it.
Oh yeah.
But but in short, Slovenes were a little bit different than the Serbs and the Croats and the rest of the Balkans. Our language was a little bit different. Our culture was heavily influenced by the Austrians and the Western Europe in general. Yugoslavia itself understood that we are like on the losing side of this economic agreement that we had. You know, they understood the tendency to become independent. Why exactly it was so easy for us, I don't know, and why it wasn't for the Croats later on, and for the war is still going on in Kosovo.
No?
Sorry?
You were the first comers in that independence.
Yes, definitely.
So I guess that also maybe they
Yeah.
decided to.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, for our sake, for your sake, it was a pretty smooth process and.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then you were saying then it's like European integration. You also mentioned before something about NATO, that there's a bit of conflict there. Of course, or as many EU countries, you entered the NATO as well, but I think it's conflicting within the country. And then, if you tell us a bit about current politics and so on as a wrap.
Okay, so we're not too late. I think we applied to join the EU in 1996. We succeed in the Big Bang expansion of 2004. We get Euro in 2007.
Okay.
And we also joined the Schengen in 2007. We joined the OECD in 2010, I believe.
Okay.
And we joined NATO in 2004. And this is still to a degree, or at least I remember as a kid, it was quite a heavy topic. Should we join NATO or should we not join NATO?
Okay.
I think the European Union was a no-brainer. You're a new small country trying to that is doing quite well economically, actually. You know, we had a very tight monetary policy after the independence movement, so it helped us to not go down into like heavy recession. You know, like inflation was quite high, but we did okay. But it was this NATO kind of joining NATO that was not really viewed by everyone as the right choice. There is still heavy debate, should we really do this? Because it did signal to the Serbs, for example, who were bombed by NATO in 1999, that we are now aligning with the Western military complex. We had I believe we still do, have heavy ties with Serbia, with the rest of Yugoslav nations. And this was kind of not seen as a very diplomatic move on our side, especially if we were a small country that prided itself on its diplomacy and being able to navigate these murky waters, you know. And then this was a very clear statement.
But also, I mean, as you said before, I mean, one of the things of Yugoslavia was the non-alignment. So for the first time, okay, Slovenia on its own, it is then clearly aligned. It's the end of neutrality, if you wish. So
exactly.
I get why also for the population can be a bit, I guess, confusing, or in any case, some people may have some reservations because. This is one school of thought where we should have done more, more akin to the non-aligned movement, and play our cards better. You know, like Serbia right now is playing their cards on both sides. They are in this Russia-Ukrainian war. You know, they are playing both sides, and they are doing it. Although I might not support the leadership, they're doing it in a quite shrewd and cunning manner, you know. There's always an advantage in being in between two big blocks of power. That's also Italy, although was in the NATO from the beginning, it always, the fact that it had a very powerful communist party within always allowed it to, let's say,
Balance.
to bring that to the table. So
Yeah.
there is merit to it. But yeah, and then okay, where does it leave us in nowadays Slovenia?
Nowadays.
What is happening?
Who's ruling this recent country?
Besides being birthed to Melania Trump, because
Yes.
True
I feel like it's absurd that we don't
that.
mention it.
I feel like if there are Slovenians to be mentioned, there are definitely
Others.
better ones than Melania Trump. I think Slovenia has an insane sport population. Like the amount of high class, like really top 1% of the 1% sportsmen that we create is insane. You know, it's
Per capita, let's be pretty high.
I have no idea, you know, like if there is another small nation like that is so successful in sports. So kudos to our sports people, you know. But Slovenia right now, I think if you have to really sum it up, Slovenian story is one of fortitude, of tenacity, of sticking with what you want and you fight for it. No matter how long it takes, we eventually got there. I think we played our independence nicely. I think we joined the European community. I think we maintain friendly and diplomatic relations with everyone. We try to do our best for the environment. We try to be the leaders in green diplomacy, let's say. But it may be currently due to internal struggles, because we have a right-wing government, and then we have a central leftist, and then it's always the right-wing government again. We sometimes lose some institutions of democracy, some certain values get eroded. But I think we can overcome this. If Slovenia has shown anything, it's really this tenacity, you know, and
Resilience.
this resilience towards external pressures, you know. And I think we're on the right path. We might be a bit directionless sometimes, but we are young, we are learning, you know, and luckily we have a lot of good influences to take from. So,
Good.
yes.
Very well.
I don't want to even add a single word. Thanks a lot for listening. I think this is a wrap.
Thank you, Lan,
Thanks a
for
lot for coming.
Guys, this
It
was
has
so
been
much fun.
amazing.
This was really so much fun. Thank you both.
Stay tuned. There's elections next year, so follow what happens.
April
And,
2026.
we
Stay
checked
tuned
before.
indeed. And see you on the next episode.
Thank you all.
Bye.